while we were out pruning blueberries, we thought we'd also show you how to prune grapes. Now, Keith, these vines are about 5 or 6 years old, and as you can see, the trunks have gotten very crooked. Can you give us some advice on how to amend that situation on a vine like this?
Okay. As far as the situation with the trunks, the only way to come up with a straight trunk would be at the time of training the vines up just after you've planted them. It's very, very important then to try to make it a straight trunk, because once they get to this stage, about the only thing that you can do is to bring up suckers, which are canes growing at the base of the trunk there. You can bring them up and gradually let that grow up and become your new vine, and then you can remove the old vine.
So just start a whole
Just
new...
have to kind of start over almost.
Well, does it hurt to have a trunk that's winding like that?
For the backyard situation, it probably doesn't really matter that much at all. If you're in a commercial situation, though, where you're going to be using a lot of equipment, one of the growers that I know told me that they always end up with a straight row with a straight row because their equipment straightens it out for them.
Oh.
So,
well,
so
how could we start on this one?
okay, if we're going to prune this vine, the first thing that we should look at, we should look at the training system that this vine the system that this vine has been trained to. This vine has been trained to what's known as a 4-arm niffin system. We're looking at trying to get 4 canes, one originating in this area and going out on the lower wire here, one originating in this area or even a little bit lower and going on this wire here, and then the same situation over here on one cane on this wire, one cane on this wire. Then we would leave a couple 2-node, and I'll explain the term node in just a minute, a couple 2-node canes down here as renewals, so that we'll have something for next year's growth.
Because
there.
each year
we're cutting everything off,
right,
and that brings up another good point. We just got through pruning blueberries, and you saw that we cut out quite a bit of wood there. Well, with grapevines, there are a couple differences. One of them is that grapevine pruning is the most severe pruning of any of the fruit crops. We cut off almost all of the growth that occurred last year. The other difference is the position or the wood in which the fruit is borne on. And if we can look at this right here, this is a grapevine bud, which is a compound bud. It has 3 growing points in it, and this would also be termed a node. This area of the cane is termed a node there. So when I refer to a node, that would be one node, and a node would contain a bud there. And then here's another bud right down here.
Now out of that will grow both leaves and fruiting buds.
That's right. Okay. So this wood that we're looking at right here is the previous season's growth, like we left for the blueberries to fruit on. However, in the situation of the grapevine, you'll have a shoot develop from this bud right here, and the leaves and the flower clusters will be born on that current season's growth. So the grapevine fruits on current season's growth. So we leave last year's growth, but the fruit is actually born on current season's growth, which will develop out of these buds or nodes right here.
So it's important to leave some healthy nodes.
Important to leave those. And what we'd probably like to do on a grapevine that looks something like this, we'd probably want to leave around 40 nodes on this grapevine. This is a pretty good sized grapevine. It has a lot of good growth on it, and it can stand that kind of crop next year. Mm-hmm. When we're pruning, we're actually setting the crop for next year, so that's a very important thing to remember. And another real important thing to remember is the type of wood that we want to leave, the type of cane that we want to leave. A very good example of that is probably right here. This cane right here was matured and grew in the sun last year, and it's about pencil-sized diameter, and that's what we're looking for right there. And it has not too great of a distance between the nodes here. If you have a very, very long distance between the nodes, that's an indication that you had excessive growth, and those buds that are on a cane like that are not going to be as fruitful as one on a cane of this size right here. We have an example of what we call a bull cane, if I can come over here.
You read about those sometimes in literature and pruning.
Now this cane right here, you can see it's a lot bigger, larger diameter, longer inner node or distance between the nodes, and the buds that are on this cane are not going to be as fruitful as the buds on the cane that we looked at just a second ago. So this would be a cane that we'd want to remove right here. So I think we're ready to make a few cuts here, and we can show you some of the cuts that we would on this that we would make on this side of the vine. And one thing I should mention about this training system, the 4-arm Niffen training system, I think it's probably a pretty good one for the backyard gardener. This system is really pretty easy to prune, and it does require a little bit more tying than some of the other training systems, but that's generally not a problem in the backyard situation.
It's an easy one to remember, too.
Easy one to remember, too.
To
That's right.
Yeah.
Very, very easy. You just kind of cut and go.
Well, we're running a little short on time.
Okay.
We've got one that's already pruned over
That's
here.
right.
Let's
We
take
can
a
go
look
down
at
here and
that
take a
one.
look
So
at
the
this
finished
one.
product. It started out just like this one.
Okay. With this vine here, we pruned it just a minute ago, and we did exactly what we were talking about on the vine there. We selected one cane for this wire, one cane for this wire right here, and there are approximately 10 nodes or so on each one of these canes. One cane here, which is a little bit larger than what we'd want. We would not have left this cane if we would have had a better cane to leave, but we were forced to do that. So sometimes you have to take what you can get. And then we left this cane down here. And then you also want to leave a couple of 2 bud spurs, as we call them, down here for renewal purposes. Because next year, if you can envision the way this vine is going to grow, next year we'll come in and we'll cut these things off, and then we'll have to select new canes to bring out here. So it's a continual process of renewal,
Right,
annual
renewal.
renewal. Yes.
Yeah. Now,
Yes.
Keith, you've cut off the old trunk on here. Can we train this to be a new trunk?
What we would want to do to train a new trunk would be to find during the spring when all the buds start growing, there will be some buds which push from the old wood down here.
Okay. They're
And
dormant
those are
right
they're
now.
dormant right now, and we'll call those suckers. Okay, what we would do is select one of those while that's grown up here, and we would begin to train that up as a new trunk. And then over a period of 2 years or so, 3 years, we can bring that up and train it much like this, and then we can, after a while, take a saw and remove this old trunk. This trunk is actually fairly straight compared to the last one that we looked
It's
at.
doing better than most.
Yes.
Well, grapes are extremely vigorous, and I think as y'all can see from the first grape we looked at, that was all just last year's growth. So don't be afraid to do some pruning on them, and keep in mind that you can't kill the thing. They're
No.
extremely vigorous. Sure as I say that, one of you will, but they're very tough. Don't be afraid to try some pruning, and if they have questions on it, they could contact the county agent. Get some advice on it.